I'd rather kiss my dog than dance with you another minute. Sophia's words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest, echoing across the marble floor of Mason Carter's mansion. The music stopped. Conversations died. 50 pairs of eyes turned toward us, watching my humiliation unfold in real time. I'm Eli Quinn, 42 years old, and I build custom homes for a living. I work with my hands, sweat for my money, and apparently married way above my station. At least that's what Sophia's friends never let me forget. The party had been going well enough until the slow dance. Sophia looked stunning in her black cocktail dress, the one I'd bought her for our anniversary last month. Her blonde hair was perfect, her makeup flawless, and her smile as fake as the diamonds around her neck. "Excuse me," I said, still holding her waist, hoping I'd misheard. "You heard me, Eli." She stepped back, her voice carrying across the silent room. "Baxter has better rhythm than you do." Baxter, her precious golden retriever, the dog she'd rescued from the shelter 3 years ago and treated better than her own husband. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Mason Carter, our host and Sophia's boss at the real estate firm, smirked from beside the grand piano. Sophia's three best friends, Callie, Jade, and Vanessa, covered their mouths in mock horror, their eyes sparkling with delight. I felt heat rise in my cheeks, but something else rose too, something darker, something that had been building for months. "Well, Sophia," I said, my voice steady despite the rage boiling inside me, "you'll be kissing the doors of my house when I throw you out of it." The silence that followed was deafening. Sophia's face went white, then red, then white again. She knew what I meant. She knew about the prenup she'd signed without reading. Back when she was desperate and homeless, and I was her knight in shining armor. "You wouldn't dare," she whispered. "Try me." I walked away, leaving her standing alone on the dance floor, her mask finally slipping. The crowd began to murmur, sensing blood in the water. I grabbed my jacket from the coat check and headed for the door. Ryan Mitchell, my oldest friend and the only person at this party who actually liked me, caught up with me in the driveway. "Jesus, Eli, that was brutal," he said, lighting a cigarette. "You okay?" "I'm fine." I wasn't fine. I was furious, humiliated, and starting to see my marriage for what it really was. "She's been different lately," Ryan said, blowing smoke into the cool night air. More, I don't know, cruel. I thought about the past few months, the late nights at the office, the new jewelry I hadn't bought her, the way she flinched when I touched her, like I was contaminated. "Yeah," I said, "and she has." That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling while Sophia slept beside me, still smelling like expensive perfume and other people's approval. She'd come home an hour after me, slipping into bed without a word. I thought about how we'd met 5 years ago at a charity auction. She'd been volunteering, beautiful and charming, but I'd seen something else in her eyes. Desperation, need. She'd been living in her car, too proud to admit it, but grateful when I offered her a place to stay. I'd fallen hard and fast. She was everything I wasn't. Sophisticated, cultured, ambitious. I was a blue-collar guy who'd made good, building houses for rich people, but never quite belonging in their world. The prenup had been my lawyer's idea. "Protect yourself," he'd said. "You've got assets now." Sophia had signed it without question, just happy to have security. Now, lying in the dark, I wondered if that security had become a prison. For both of us. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Your wife looks good in red. Too bad you'll never see her wear it again." I sat up, heart pounding. Red? Sophia had worn black tonight. Then I remembered. Last week she'd bought a red dress, said it was for a work function I wasn't invited to. I deleted the text and tried to go back to sleep, but my mind was racing. Who would send something like that? And why? The next morning, Sophia was gone before I woke up. No note, no goodbye kiss, just the lingering scent of her perfume and an empty coffee cup in the sink. I called Ryan. "Want to do some detective work?" I asked. "What kind of a detective work?" "The kind that might save my marriage. Or end it." We met at my workshop, a converted garage behind my house, where I designed custom furniture and stored my tools. Ryan brought coffee and donuts. I brought my growing paranoia. "Tell me what you've noticed about Sophia lately," I said. Ryan sipped his coffee thoughtfully. She's been different at social events, more confident, like she's got a secret. What kind of secret? The expensive kind. New purse last month, new shoes. That watch she was wearing last night looked like it cost more than my car. I thought about our joint checking account. No unusual withdrawals, which meant someone else was buying her things. And there's something else, Ryan said. The way she looks at Mason Carter. Mason. Sophia's boss at Carter Realty, the most successful real estate firm in the city. 40 years old, divorced, and rich enough to buy and sell people like me for sport. What about the way she looks at him? Like he's dessert and she's been on a diet. My phone rang, Sophia. Hey, babe, she said, her voice sweet as poison. Sorry I left early. Big showing today. No problem. What time will you be home? Late. Mason's taking the team out for dinner after. Team building, you know? Team building. Right. After I hung up, Ryan and I spent the afternoon following Sophia's usual route through the city. Her office was downtown, but according to her credit card statements, she'd been spending a lot of time at a boutique hotel on the other side of town. We parked across the street from the Meridian Hotel at 4 o'clock and waited. At 5:30, Mason's silver Porsche pulled into the valet parking. At 6, Sophia's white BMW followed. Son of a bitch, I muttered. They didn't come out for 2 hours. When they finally emerged, they looked like a couple. Mason's hand on the small of her back. Sophia laughing at something he'd whispered in her ear. They kissed goodbye. Not a friendly peck, but a real kiss that made my stomach turn. You getting this? I asked Ryan, who was filming with his phone. Every second. That night, I confronted Sophia in our kitchen. She was making herself a salad, still wearing the red dress from the mysterious text. How was your team building dinner? I asked. Fine. Boring, actually. You know how these corporate things are. Must have been really boring. You look exhausted. She glanced at me sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just an observation. I wanted to throw the photos in her face, demand an explanation, scream until the neighbors called the police. Instead, I went to bed early and pretended to sleep when she finally came upstairs. The next day, I called Dale Morrison, an ex-cop who'd helped me with background checks on potential employees. Now he ran a small private investigation business. I need you to follow my wife, I told him. Eli, you sure about this? Sometimes it's better not to know. I already know. I just need proof. Dale was thorough. Within a week, he had photos, credit card records, and hotel receipts. Sophia and Mason had been meeting 3 times a week for 2 months. Always the same hotel, always the same room. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the recording Dale made outside Mason's office window. The stupid bastard has no idea, Mason was saying to someone on the phone. Sophia's got him wrapped around her finger. Once we're married, I'll buy his little construction business for pennies on the dollar. Maybe keep him on as a foreman if he's lucky. What about the prenup? The voice on the other end asked. What prenup? Sophia never mentioned a prenup. I played the recording 3 times before it sank in. Mason didn't know about the prenup, which meant Sophia hadn't told him, which meant she was playing us both. That night, I made my decision. If Sophia wanted to play games, I'd teach her the rules. The Riverside Country Club's annual charity gala was the social event of the season. 500 of the city's most influential people gathered to eat overpriced food, drink expensive wine, and write tax-deductible checks to feel better about themselves. Sophia loved these events. She spent weeks preparing, new dress, new shoes, new jewelry that I definitely hadn't bought her. This year, she was particularly excited because Mason was being honored as Real Estate Developer of the Year. You'll behave yourself tonight, won't you? She asked as we got dressed. When don't I behave myself? You know what I mean. No embarrassing comments about people's houses or their decorating choices. I adjusted my tie in the mirror. Wouldn't dream of it. The ballroom was decorated in gold and white, with crystal chandeliers and enough flowers to stock a funeral home. Sophia immediately disappeared into the crowd, making her rounds like a politician working for votes. I found Ryan at the bar. You ready for this? He asked. Born ready. Dale had been busy. In addition to the photos and recordings, He'd managed to hack into Mason's email account. Nothing illegal. Mason used the same password for everything, and it was embarrassingly easy to guess. Success 23. The emails told a story. Mason wasn't just sleeping with my wife, he was planning to destroy me. He'd been spreading rumors about my business, questioning my work quality, even suggesting to potential clients that I was unreliable. But tonight I was going to return the favor. Mason gave his acceptance speech at 9 o'clock, thanking everyone for their support and talking about his vision for the city's future. He looked confident, successful, untouchable. When he finished, I stood up. "Ladies and gentlemen," I called out, my voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "I'd like to add something to Mr. Carter's speech." The crowd turned toward me. I saw Sophia's face go white. Mason looked confused, then annoyed. "Eli," Sophia hissed, "sit down." "In a minute, sweetheart." I walked to the front of the room, pulling out my phone. I think everyone should see what kind of man we're really honoring tonight. I'd spent hours preparing the slideshow. Photos of Mason and Sophia entering and leaving the hotel, screenshots of their text messages which Dale had recovered from Mason's phone, email exchanges where Mason bragged about his conquest and his plans for my business. The first photo appeared on the large screen behind the podium. Mason and Sophia in a passionate embrace outside the Meridian Hotel. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Someone dropped a wine glass. "This is my wife, Sophia Quinn," I announced calmly. "And this is Mason Carter, the man you're honoring tonight. They've been meeting at the Meridian Hotel 3 times a week for the past 2 months." The next slide showed their text messages. Sophia telling Mason how much she hated me, how she couldn't wait to leave me. Mason promising her a new life, a better life once they got rid of me. "Stop this," Mason shouted, rushing toward me. "Oh, we're just getting started," I said, clicking to the next slide. "Here's where it gets really interesting." The emails appeared on screen. Mason's plans to sabotage my business, his conversations with potential clients, poisoning them against me, his scheme to buy my company after he destroyed my reputation. The crowd was silent now, watching the train wreck unfold. I saw phones coming out, people recording everything. Mason reached me just as the final slide appeared, a screenshot of his bank account, showing payments to a private investigator who'd been following me, looking for dirt to use against me. "You son of a bitch," he snarled, grabbing for my phone. I stepped aside, and he stumbled forward, crashing into the dessert table. Chocolate cake and raspberry tart splattered across his expensive tuxedo. The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. Mason struggled to his feet, covered in frosting and humiliation. "This isn't over," he said. "Oh, but it is," I replied. "Check your email. I've sent copies of everything to your business partners, your ex-wife's lawyer, and the Better Business Bureau. You might want to update your resume." I turned to Sophia, who was standing frozen beside our table. "As for you, dear wife, I'll see you in court. I hope Mason's worth it, because you're about to find out exactly what that prenup says." I walked out of the ballroom to thunderous applause, leaving behind the wreckage of 2 lives and 1 very expensive charity dinner. The next morning, I woke up to find my workshop vandalized. Paint cans overturned, tools scattered, and a message spray-painted across my workbench. "Back off or else!" I called the police, but I already knew who was responsible. Mason Carter wasn't the type to take humiliation lying down. Officer Patricia Williams took my statement and photographed the damage. "Any idea who might have done this?" she asked. "I have some theories." "Well, whoever it was, they're not very creative. I've seen this exact same vandalism pattern in 3 other cases this month, all connected to Mason Carter." That was interesting. Other cases? Business rivals, mostly. People who got in his way. Can't prove it, but the pattern's pretty clear. After she left, I started cleaning up the mess. That's when I found the envelope tucked under my toolbox. No postmark, hand-delivered. Inside was a single photograph. Sophia and Mason having dinner at an expensive restaurant. On the back, someone had written, "Your wife has good taste. Too bad you don't." I was still staring at the photo when Ryan arrived. "Jesus, what happened here?" "Mason's opening move," I said, showing him the picture. "Guy's got balls, I'll give him that. What's your next move?" I thought about it. Mason wanted to play dirty? I could play dirty too. Time to meet some new people. Gina Carter, Mason's ex-wife, lived in a sprawling house on the other side of town. According to Dale's research, she'd gotten a raw deal in the divorce. Mason had hidden assets and used expensive lawyers to minimize her settlement. She answered the door wearing yoga pants and a suspicious expression. "Mrs. Carter? I'm Eli Quinn. I think we should talk." Her expression shifted to interest. "You're the guy from last night? The one who embarrassed Mason at the gala?" "That's me." She smiled for the first time. "Come in. I'll make coffee." Gina's story was depressingly familiar. Mason had cheated throughout their marriage, lied about money, and discarded her when she became inconvenient. She'd been fighting him in court for 3 years, trying to get what she was owed. "He's got offshore accounts," she told me, over coffee and homemade cookies. "Properties in other names. I can prove it, but I need evidence." "What kind of evidence?" "Bank records, property deeds, business documents, the kind of stuff he keeps in his home office." I thought about Mason's house, a fortress of glass and steel with a security system that would make Fort Knox jealous. "That might be difficult to obtain legally," I said. "Who said anything about legally?" That afternoon, I had lunch with Sophia's 3 best friends. They'd agreed to meet me, probably hoping for gossip about our impending divorce. Callie, Jade, and Vanessa were the kind of women who lived for drama, as long as it was happening to someone else. They'd been Sophia's enablers, encouraging her affair and laughing at my expense. "Eli!" Callie squealed as I sat down at their table. "We're so sorry about everything. We had no idea Sophia was being so indiscreet." "Of course you didn't," I said. "You're such loyal friends." They exchanged glances. Jade, the boldest of the 3, leaned forward. "We want you to know that we never approved of her behavior. We told her she was making a mistake." "Really?" "Because I have text messages that suggest otherwise." That wasn't entirely true, but their faces told me I was on the right track. "Text messages?" Vanessa asked nervously. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through screenshots Dale had recovered from Sophia's cloud account. Messages where her friends encouraged the affair, helped her plan secret meetings, and mocked me behind my back. "Here's a good one," I said, reading from the screen. "Eli's such a loser. Mason's gonna eat him alive." "That was you, Callie." Callie's face went red. "I never said that." And here's Jade. "I can't believe Sophia married that blue-collar nobody. She deserves so much better." "You can't prove those are real," Jade protested. "Actually, I can. Digital forensics is amazing these days. Every text, every email, every social media post leaves a trail, and that trail leads right back to you 3. I leaned back in my chair, enjoying their discomfort. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me everything you know about Sophia and Mason's relationship. Every detail, every plan, every secret meeting. In exchange, I won't share your text messages with your husbands." Vanessa cracked first. "They've been planning this for months," she whispered. "Sophia said you'd never see it coming." "Planning what?" "The divorce. Mason promised her he'd take care of everything. Make sure she got the house, your business, everything." "What about the prenup?" The 3 women exchanged another look. "She never told him about it," Callie admitted. "She was going to spring it on him after you were out of the picture." So Sophia was playing everyone. Me, Mason, even her own friends. I almost admired her audacity. That evening, I got a call from my lawyer, David Feldman. "Eli, we need to talk. Sophia's filed for divorce, and she's making some serious allegations." "What kind of allegations?" "Domestic abuse, emotional cruelty. She's asking for a restraining order." I felt the ground shift under my feet. "That's insane. I never laid a hand on her." "I believe you, but she's got witnesses. Her friends are backing up her story." Of course they were. Callie, Jade, and Vanessa had played me, giving me just enough information to feel confident while setting up their real trap. Can she break the prenup with abuse allegations? Possibly. If she can prove a pattern of abuse, a judge might invalidate the agreement. I hung up the phone and sat in my empty house, finally understanding the scope of Sophia's plan. She hadn't just been cheating on me, she'd been systematically destroying me. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated how far I was willing to go to fight back. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for Monday morning. I had 72 hours to prepare my defense, and I intended to use every minute. Dale worked through the weekend, gathering evidence that would destroy Sophia's credibility. Bank records showing unexplained deposits, hotel receipts, phone records, proving she'd been lying about her whereabouts for months. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source: Mason's housekeeper. Maria Santos had worked for Mason for 5 years, cleaning his house and keeping his secrets. She was also Gina Carter's cousin, and she was tired of watching Mason destroy people's lives. He keeps everything in his office, she told me Sunday night. Bank statements, property deeds, business contracts, all in a safe behind his desk. What's the combination? His birthday. The man has no imagination. Monday morning, I walked into the courthouse with a briefcase full of ammunition. Sophia was already there with her lawyer, a sharp-dressed woman named Patricia Vance, who specialized in high-conflict divorces. Sophia looked perfect, as always. Conservative dress, minimal makeup, the picture of an abused wife seeking justice. She'd even managed to produce some fake bruises on her arms. Makeup, most likely, but convincing enough for a photograph. Your Honor, Ms. Vance began, my client has endured months of psychological and physical abuse at the hands of her husband. She fears for her safety and requests immediate protection. Judge Harrison, a stern woman in her 60s, looked over the paperwork. Mr. Quinn, how do you respond to these allegations? I stood up. Your Honor, my wife is lying, and I can prove it. The next hour was the most satisfying of my life. I presented evidence of Sophia's affair, her conspiracy with Mason, and her plan to frame me for domestic abuse. I showed the court her text messages, her bank records, and her hotel receipts. But the coup de grace was the recording Dale had made of Sophia coaching her friends on their testimony. Remember, you have to say you saw him grab me, Sophia's voice echoed through the courtroom. Make it sound believable. Cry if you have to. Judge Harrison's expression grew colder with each piece of evidence. Mrs. Quinn, she said finally, these are very serious allegations you've made against your husband. Perjury is a felony. Sophia's composure finally cracked. I was scared. I didn't know what else to do. You could have tried telling the truth. The restraining order was denied. Sophia's abuse allegations were dismissed, and the prenup was upheld in its entirety. As we left the courthouse, Sophia grabbed my arm. This isn't over, Eli. You think you've won, but Mason has resources you can't imagine. He'll destroy you. Let him try. That afternoon, Mason made his move. I was at a construction site when my foreman, Tony, came running over. Boss, we got problems. Building inspector's here, and he's shutting us down. The inspector, a thin man with nervous eyes, handed me a stop work order. Multiple violations, he said, not meeting my gaze. Unsafe conditions, code violations, improper permits. I looked at the list. Every item was bogus, problems that didn't exist or issues we'd already corrected. This is harassment, I told him. I'm calling the city. Call whoever you want. Site stays closed until these issues are resolved. As he walked away, I noticed him talking on his phone. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I caught one word: Carter. That evening, 3 more of my job sites were shut down on bogus violations. My phone started ringing. Clients wanting to know why their projects were delayed, suppliers demanding payment for materials I couldn't use. Mason was trying to destroy my business, just like he'd planned from the beginning. But I had plans of my own. At midnight, I met Ryan and Dale at a 24-hour diner on the outskirts of town. You sure about this? Dale asked. What we're talking about is technically breaking and entering. Mason broke into my workshop. Turnabout is fair play. And if we get caught, we won't get caught. The plan was simple. Maria would leave a window unlocked in Mason's home office. We'd slip in, photograph the contents of his safe, and slip out. No damage, no theft, just documentation. Ryan would be the lookout. Dale would handle the safe. I would photograph everything we found. What if the safe combination doesn't work? Ryan asked. Then we improvise. Tuesday night, we put the plan into action. Mason's house sat on 2 acres of manicured lawn, isolated from his neighbors by tall hedges and careful landscaping. The window was unlocked, just as Maria had promised. We slipped inside using penlight flashlights to navigate the dark hallway. Mason's office was a shrine to his own ego. Awards, photos with politicians, expensive art. The safe was exactly where Maria had said it would be, hidden behind a painting of Mason shaking hands with the mayor. Dale tried the combination, Mason's birthday. The safe opened with a soft click. Jackpot, he whispered. Inside were bank statements showing accounts in the Cayman Islands, property deeds for buildings Mason claimed not to own, and contracts for bribes paid to city officials. But the real prize was a folder labeled Quinn Project. Inside were detailed plans for destroying my business. Mason had been paying building inspectors to harass me, spreading rumors to potential clients, and even planning to have drugs planted at one of my job sites. I photographed everything, my hands shaking with rage. "Eli!" Ryan hissed from the hallway. "Car in the driveway." We closed the safe, replaced the painting, and slipped out the window just as headlights swept across the front of the house. From the bushes, we watched Mason and Sophia get out of his Porsche. They were arguing about something, their voices carrying in the still night air. "You said the prenup wasn't valid," Mason was saying. "I thought it wasn't." "My lawyer said abuse allegations would invalidate it. Your lawyer was wrong. Now I'm stuck with a cheating wife and no way to get my hands on Quinn's assets." "We can still make this work," Sophia pleaded. "Once his business is destroyed, his business is the least of our problems. If Quinn releases those photos and recordings, I'm finished. My business partners will drop me, my clients will flee, and the city will revoke my licenses." They disappeared into the house, still arguing. "Did you get all that?" I asked Dale, who'd been recording the conversation. "Every word." Wednesday morning, I called a press conference. The local newspaper, 2 TV stations, and half the city council showed up at my lawyer's office. I presented everything: the photos, the recordings, the bank statements, the bribery contracts. Mason's corruption was laid bare for everyone to see. By noon, the FBI had opened an investigation. By evening, Mason was in custody. Sophia called me that night, crying, "Eli, please, I made a mistake. I was confused, scared. We can work this out." "No, Sophia, we can't. I'll lose everything. I have nowhere to go." "You should have thought of that before you tried to destroy my life." I hung up the phone and poured myself a drink. Outside, it was starting to rain. 3 months later, the divorce was final. Sophia got exactly what the prenup specified. Nothing. No house, no alimony, no claim on my business. She moved back in with her parents, a woman in her 30s, starting over with nothing but the clothes in her suitcase. Mason fared worse. The FBI investigation uncovered years of corruption, bribery, and fraud. He was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison and ordered to pay millions in restitution. His real estate empire collapsed. His assets were seized. His former friends and business partners acted like they'd never known him. But the story wasn't over yet. On a cold December night, 6 months after the divorce, I was working late in my shop when I heard a car pull into my driveway. Through the window, I saw Sophia getting out of a beat-up Honda Civic. She looked different, thinner, older, wearing jeans and a cheap jacket instead of designer clothes. Her hair was shorter, darker, like she was trying to become someone else. I opened the door before she could knock. "Hello, Eli?" "Sophia, what do you want?" "To apologize, to explain." "There's nothing to explain. You made your choices." "Can I come in? It's cold." Against my better judgment, I led her into the shop. She looked around at my tools, my workbench, the half-finished furniture projects. "I always loved this place," she said. "It smells like sawdust and possibility." "Cut the nostalgia, Sophia. What do you really want?" She sat down on an old stool, suddenly looking very tired. "I want to tell you why I did it. Why I threw away everything we had. I don't care why. I was scared," she continued as if I hadn't spoken. "Scared of being poor again. Scared of not mattering. Scared of being ordinary. Mason promised me a different life. A better life. So, you decided to destroy mine. I thought you'd be fine. You're strong, capable. You always land on your feet. I didn't think it would hurt you." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You tried to have me arrested for domestic abuse. You conspired to destroy my business. You turned my friends against me. How exactly did you think that wouldn't hurt?" Tears ran down her cheeks. I know how terrible it was. I was desperate, and desperate people do terrible things." "Yes, they do. She reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. I found something, she said. Something you should see. Inside the envelope were photographs. Mason with other women. Lots of other women. Some I recognized as his clients. Others were strangers. He was cheating on me too, Sophia said quietly. The whole time we were together, he was sleeping with half the city. I was just another conquest. Why are you showing me this? Because I want you to know that he got what he deserved. We both did. I studied the photos, feeling nothing. Mason's betrayal of Sophia was irrelevant to me now. Is that supposed to make me feel better? Or make me forgive you? I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I understand now, what I lost, what I threw away. She stood up, wiping her eyes. I got a job, she said, at a diner downtown. Minimum wage, but it's honest work. I'm trying to rebuild, to become someone better. Good for you. I know you hate me. You have every right to. But I want you to know that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry for what I did to you. I walked her to the door. Outside, snow was beginning to fall. Sophia? She turned back, hope flickering in her eyes. Don't come here again. Don't call, don't write, don't send messages through mutual friends. We're done, forever. The hope died. She nodded and walked to her car. I watched her drive away, then went back to my workbench. I had a dining room table to finish for a client, and work was the best medicine for old wounds. My phone buzzed, a text from Ryan. Beer tonight? New place downtown has good wings. I smiled and texted back, sure, I'll pick you up at 8. Life was good. My business was thriving, stronger than ever after surviving Mason's attacks. I had friends who'd stuck by me through the worst of it. I had my house, my shop, my independence. Most importantly, I had the truth. Everyone knew what Sophia and Mason had tried to do to me, and everyone knew I'd beaten them at their own game. I picked up my sandpaper and got back to work. The table wasn't going to finish itself, and I had a reputation to maintain. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the world in a clean white blanket. Tomorrow would be a new day, full of new possibilities. I was ready for whatever came next.